Okay. So that's our sort of interesting story. And sometimes we have heartbreaker stories, and let me just say this one is quite the heartbreaker story. I believe we covered the beginnings of this story last year. And now a lawsuit has been filed. There's a young man on the 16-year-old on the spectrum who was profoundly affected by autism. His name was Eric Parsa. And I want you to imagine for a second, like in 2020, when you still could go to the mall, and that you and your family go to the mall because you want to try, like as a treat, you want to try out the tag, the laser tag that they have, right? And you go there, and for whatever reason, your 16-year-old child has a sensory meltdown. And so what do you do? What do you do? You exit the building. And part of what was happening, and he was there with his mom and his dad, and he began to hit himself in the face. And then, as they were trying to calm him, he began to hit his dad. The manager of the store, who was familiar with the family, said to mom, "What should I do? Should I call security?" Mom said yes. And they exited the building, were outside that entrance to the mall as the teenager was having, and you and I know what this looks like, right? And we're familiar with it, but we have to acknowledge that other people, they see it and it's just like they don't know what to do. But he was hitting himself and hitting his father. And the father was sort of wrestling with him, trying to gain control of the situation. And along came one of the security people who was an off-duty cop who worked. I guess they contract with them for the mall. Not entirely sure about all that, but this police officer person came and was attempting to help the dad. Attempting to help the dad, and was trying to gain control of the situation. And he had wrestled the young man to the ground, face down, and then sat on him. Now, it's reported that both the young man on the spectrum and the cop were overweight. So he's sitting on him, and mom is on the ground talking to her son. Dad is on the ground talking to their son, trying to calm him down, and he was hysterical. And he was the cop was on his back for an extended period of time, over 8 minutes. And then, we know this story, right? We've heard this story. And then another police officer came and spelled him and also sat on the kid. And everyone says, the mistake that was made here was, sometimes you have to gain control by getting on top of someone. But then once you've gained control, you have the opportunity. I mean, as unthinkable as it is, I don't want to see any of our 16-year-olds handcuffed, right? But I would much rather see them handcuffed and sat up than to die, because this young man died. The second cop who came up and spelled the first cop stayed on his back, and eventually the boy urinated himself and went limp. And only then did they get off of him, and they called the paramedics. They were unable to revive him, and he died. And we just can't have this anymore. We just can't have this anymore. And the parents are suing. And the police department is saying really, I think, inappropriate things. And saying that the parents are just looking to blame someone where there's no one to blame. I beg your pardon. I beg your pardon. How dare you? How dare you? No, I'm in support of this family suing. You have to train your people better. And you got to treat people with more dignity. And you got to stop acting like just because you have the badge that it's okay to do this. It just isn't. Now, listen, I support, I have friends who are police officers. I understand what a difficult job it is, but somebody was not doing their job. And every expert agrees that the mistake made here was you have to put the person in a recovery situation. And, I know I can think of all the things that I want to go off and talk about here, but we have to start holding people accountable. We can't allow this to happen. And this could have happened to any of us. And I know we've shared before on the show that the experts are saying if you have a child with autism who's having a meltdown and somebody asks you if you want to call the police, say no. How horrible is that? But until they are properly trained and understand what they're dealing with, say no. It scares me because what could happen because we're not asking for help. I hope that I really hope that help is on the way for this. It's a problem bigger than I know what to deal with. But I got to tell you, it's the one thing I can say to you is we all need to be working together to help get the word out that a sensory meltdown from one of our kids with autism is not solved by asphyxiating them, by putting them on their stomach and getting on their backs. It just isn't. All right. I'm sorry. Horrifying, right? Thanks for watching Autism Live. If you found anything helpful in this video, please give us a like. In fact, make sure that you smash that subscribe button on YouTube and give us a like on Facebook. You can also follow us on Twitter and on Instagram for important updates. And please download our free podcast wherever you get your podcasts. Thank you so much. See you next time.